Woo-hoo-hoo! And it's Tuesday once again, and LinkedIn Live with Jillian. And I have a fabulous guest today. Very, very excited to meet her because I've met her in the comments. And here we are talking about the comments, which is kind of meta, kind of meta. I'm looking for the banner and I'm clicking the wrong buttons because that's what happens when you do live and you don't have a producer. You have to have so many hats on. It's kind of crazy. So before we get stuck in, Danielle, please introduce yourself so people know a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll start chatting about our topic.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jillian, for having me. What an opportunity. For those of you who I haven't met, obviously my name is Danielle Guzman, and by day job, I'm the global head of social media at Mercer. And I think hopefully many of you in the community will have been people that I've met or I look forward to meeting. And I spend on my personal time a fair amount of time on social media, building conversations, engaging in conversations, and really just spending a lot of time learning.
Awesome. 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 So today we're talking about top tips for commenting on LinkedIn. Can't believe I said that right. And this is such an interesting topic because that's how I actually met you, Danielle. I met you in the comments, and I don't even know the first time we all started engaging on each other's posts. I think you reached out to me. I think you started engaging on my posts, and I started seeing you engage on other people's posts. Of course, there's always John Asperian. We must talk about John Asperian because he's just like the epicenter of LinkedIn, and we all kind of meet through him. And I thought, I call you the queen of comments, and I know it sounds like kind of crazy, but you really are, because your comments are like, you're like this hostess, like the concierge of LinkedIn, of like, welcoming us all with your comments. They're thoughtful, they're wonderful. And I really, truly think you're the poster child for this because, some people just kind of go, nice post, thumbs up, like they don't do very much. And your comments, they're thoughtful, they're meaty, and they elicit a conversation. So that's why I'm so enamored with you. So maybe you could just kind of backtrack and just kind of tell us, how did you even become so good at commenting? Like, what's sort of your backstory?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. My backstory, maybe in less than 30 seconds. So my career has taken some pretty radical pivots. Every time I do something, I tend to take a tangent into a new direction. So if I rewind about 6 years ago, I took a sabbatical. And for those of you who are the LinkedIn nerds here, I'm really excited that we can now put that into our experience section on our profiles, which I did. And I had to figure out what to do next. And I worked with a lot of people in the recruitment space. And one of the things I was told was I needed to up my game on digital. Mm-hmm. So I take feedback very seriously. And I then proceeded to dive into social media. So for those of you who are joining me, yes, it is a fact that rewind 10 plus years ago, I had never gone on social media, and I'm now the global head of social media for a pretty large organization. So I take learning and development incredibly seriously, and I do it every single day. And what I started learning was that it's called social media, but all people do is post their agendas all day long. So it's really advertising. I mean, it's not social media. So then to me, I became, well, if I'm going to take time, I want to get something out of this. And I also want to be a part of something bigger than just what I'm doing for myself. And most importantly, I wanted to own my own narrative. And the best way to do that is to be consistent how you show up and to differentiate yourself. So I started learning how to do things. And if I rewind to that very first tweet in 2006, it's highly embarrassing. I think I was telling people where I was going to dinner. Like, who cares? It was something like that. It was somewhat ridiculous. And I started realizing that the way to actually create conversation and build community is to add value. And you do that by adding your own experiences. You don't need to be an expert in something. You need to have a point of view. And you need to be kind. You need to be generous. And you need to be open to all points of view. And I just kind of started that way and started making comments and building connections. And I love meeting interesting people. And then I just started broadening that out now, obviously, fast forward to where I am today, to having a bit more of an agenda. But that agenda has never steered away from meeting interesting people. So no matter what I do professionally, I will always have time that I put into that, because that's where you broaden your perspective and you learn every day.
I love that. I love that. And, that's a nice summary of it's about adding value, and that's how we add to the conversation, is like, what can you add to this that keeps it going? And it's interesting, one of the things, and maybe you can give a comment on this comment, but one of the things that I found is that I had to kind of pull back my posting as my network grew, because 2 years ago, I was probably like about 200 people. I was maybe even less than that. And I have slowly grown. And right now my network's about 8,000. And I don't know how people do it once they hit like 40,000, 100,000. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. But what I found is I didn't want to stop replying to comments. And so I had to pull back on the posting because I couldn't do both. I couldn't post every day and handle my own comments and still add value to other people's posts as well. Because I think at the end of the day, it can't just be you only comment on your own posts. I think you have to kind of be part of other people's conversations too. It can't just all be about you. And the only way that I could do this and, get my job done, get my work done, was by pulling back and just saying, almost like an every other day strategy, or I take the weekends off from posting so that I can comment. What do you kind of think about all that with regards to balancing posting on other people's stuff and then replying to comments on your own posts?
I think it's a great point to raise. I do spend more time contributing to conversations and engaging and building conversations than I do driving, I guess, what we call like our own agendas. I do post pretty regularly, but normally about 3 to 4 times a week on LinkedIn. I could post more, but to your point, I have to be willing to show up when I do that. And if a previous post is still having a lot of conversations, and it's not just about the conversation, it's about who's in those conversations. So I don't just respond to comments, but I look at who is that person? Do I know that person? And actually, are they showing up? And you know what? I haven't had a conversation with them in a while. So let me go over and see what they're doing as well. And then maybe it's someone completely new. So who are they? Before I comment back, I want to learn who they are. So I'll pop over, take a look at their profile. Maybe I find out that they're from Canada. I met 2 amazing people who are Canadians last week. So I'm Canadian. I know you're Canadian, Jillian. So I'm super excited when I meet more Canadians. And it was so great. And actually, one of them grew up where I grew up. So I took a little deviation off of my own commenting to go and join their conversations. And so that becomes a much richer experience, but it also takes more time. So if I know I'm not going to be able to keep up and give back to those who have given time to me, I'm not going to put something else out into the channel yet. Because I think then it becomes more about pushing an agenda and less about building meaningful conversations. It will go out. And sometimes I will admit with work, I just have to put things out in certain periods of time. So then I have to rearrange my own priorities to make sure that I'm going to show up in a way that is representative of who I am. And that means I do have to shuffle a couple things to maybe over-index on one day than I would normally do in order to kind of make it all work. But that's really important to me. And I kind of look at a presence on LinkedIn. Your publishing schedule or the content you put out there should be one pillar. It's not the end all be all. There should be another pillar that focuses on the conversations you want to drive. And I actually look at a series of pillars and kind of actually map out each group of people that I like to engage with and why. And some are personal and some are professional. And I think having that clarity helps you then divide your time in the right way to show up and support everybody.
I love that. That's great. That's great. So can I ask you for tips on actually managing your comments? Like, you said you're a phone person, so you tend to do more stuff on your phone. I'm the opposite. I'm the computer person, always on the computer. And I recently stopped having my comment notifications go to my email because it was like I was in overload. I just had too many. Although it was nice because sometimes I was catching some, because sometimes it feels like I don't always get a notification for a comment. So I kind of use my notifications. And then I also actually sometimes go for my own posts. I go to my post and then I look at like recent, because sometimes there's some stray comments there that I didn't get a notification for. And that's how I address my comments. Do you have any other suggestions that maybe I'm not doing?
That's a great question. So we're going to complicate it a little bit because I have 93 company pages that I'm a super admin behind.
Oh my
So that makes notifications a bit complicated. And I need to be seeing those notifications for certain posts only. So I actually defer to my phone, and I do not have anything coming to my desktop. Because that's going to make things crazy. And then I also have across multiple platforms. So I have to kind of think of where I'm going to send notifications. But what I do is I rely heavily on what you just described, which is I actually go back into my own posts and I click on recent. And then I look at what's landed there most recently, and I kind of engage that way. And I tend to go backwards from my most current posts backwards. And I always go back a week. So typically at the end of every week, I will go back on that entire week, because you can pick up conversations that you've missed. And I never want to leave someone hanging thinking, oh my gosh, like, why did she answer everyone but me? It's never intentional. And sometimes I'll see them pop up literally 3 months later, and I will still respond back. Because I don't want to leave like a little outlier. So I do that. I also go through the actual notifications on my profile, so the little bubbles that we get at the top of our profile. And then I do the same for company pages, depending what it is I'm doing. And beyond that, I do scroll through and I look for, like, for example, if you've commented on something, it will tell me, the way I've set up my LinkedIn notifications, that I'm in that dialogue. So then I'll kind of go in and join back into the conversation that way. So I kind of follow a very unstructured approach, but at the end of the day, I always go back to my own profile and kind of scroll through and make sure that everything's checked off, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Love it. Love it. So, and you just covered one question that I had, which was, is there anything such as an old comment, like you don't do and you do it? And I, and like occasionally I'll find like, oh, I didn't respond to that person and I feel terrible. So I go and respond. And then I think, am I calling attention to the fact that it's like been 4 weeks or something since they commented? But I notice most people give it a thumbs up, meaning they liked that it's not too late. Other people give you that signal, with a thumbs up or something like that, that they appreciated that you still took the time. Even better late than never.
And actually, it re-sparks dialogue. So this was probably a couple months ago. Someone commented on the very first article I ever posted on LinkedIn. And I haven't posted articles in a long time now. But it was talking about building a personal brand. And someone went and commented on it. And so I replied back. And then it actually started a whole new slew of people engaging with the article. And I mean, this article is quite old. So you never really know what it's going to spark. And then I ended up having a conversation with this person who I didn't know. And we've now since connected and we continue engaging. So, I mean, I think every possible door that opens is an opportunity. You either jump in and see where it leads you, or you miss it, right? And it's social karma. I mean, I think we've got to kind of seek out all those opportunities. People are always looking for hitting that KPI or getting that sale or whatever it is you're trying to do. Well, these are all different roads to getting there. I just think if you have such a tunnel vision on getting to that goal, you're going to miss all the gems that come along the way.
Wonderful. I love it. And comments are gems. Comments are gems. So speaking of comments, let me hop over to our comments. And
I know I see the ticker on the right-hand side of my eye.
Yes, we've got a lot going on here. So Jeff Young, the king of the comments, and he brings in a really great thing. Let me just read. Greetings, Jillian and Danielle. I love Danielle's 3 things that inspire me from her profile video. Namaste. Ooh, so what are those 3 things? What are the 3 things?
I mean, it's so perfectly aligned to what we're talking about today. I'm passionate about, obviously, people. I'm passionate about the future of work. I'm passionate about employee advocacy. And one of the things that all those things have in common is its relationships. I spend my time working with our colleagues at Mercer and enabling them to bring their best selves to any digital platform that they want to be present on, which is kind of deeply rewarding because you get to see the creation that they go on a journey with and the value that they bring both for themselves and the organization. And then the future of work. I mean, it's a conversation that pretty much all of us here, no matter in what capacity we show up for work in, are a part of. And that's right now more than ever all about people. And I love it. I love kind of the connection there and the fact that we can have a really good conversation and learn from all of the people that want to participate on this platform across any of those topics. And you don't have to be an expert because we all work, right? So you don't need to be a leading thought leader in this conversation. Just what is your experience? What can you bring to that conversation? Because it will help someone. I always believe that everyone influences someone. And if we approach a comment that way, nothing we say is ever not good enough.
Yep. And if you're not sure what to say, ask a question, because that's a good way of, sometimes we don't always have the correct answer, reply, or you could say, I'm not sure. How would I figure that out? And that can help other people. So that's great. And I love Jeff and his GIFs. He puts GIFs in the comments. He puts pictures in the comments, emojis in the comments. So anything goes in the comments. Okay, let's go for insane tips. Do we have an insane tip? One tip that I think is insane is when people hijack comments. And that, to me, because there's good etiquette and bad etiquette. And I've seen people hijack comments with, here, go buy my thing. And they put a URL to their thing and it has nothing to do with it. And I always tell people, that makes you look bad. Like it most people are sitting there just kind of going, really? Like, it doesn't look good for you. So to me, that would be an insane tip.
I agree, but I'm going to put a different spin on it. I click through to those links and I go see what it is they're offering. And then I come back and I talk about it right back to them, say this, thanks for sharing. And I had actually a back and forth dialogue with someone that worked for an organization probably about a month ago. And I asked questions about it. And we then proceeded to have a back and forth conversation about whatever it was that they were talking about in their service, which is fantastic. You're having a conversation within my conversation. You're helping my conversation get more visibility. And it doesn't really matter what you bring to the dialogue, I'm going to respond. Now, if you're being completely inappropriate, like, just absolutely mean and the wrong uses of language and just not appropriate for a safe community, that's different. I think that needs to be addressed and don't engage in those comments. But other than that, I will always engage back. And I don't have a problem with that. And if you take it off into a different tangent, I will find a way to connect the dots back to the conversation. So I try to find every comment into an opportunity. And I love the point that you made about kind of asking a question, because a lot of times someone will share a comment and it's maybe like a sentence or a statement. And I'll always try and find a way to kind of circle back and then maybe turn that into a follow-up question. And you'll see like people will actually have a dialogue back and forth because you're invested in them. Yes. It's not about you and your content at this point. It's about that individual. And maybe it's something you read in their profile, or maybe it's something they've recently shared, or maybe just something in their headline that caught their eye. Like these are all beautiful tips that you can pick up of and then incorporate that into your narrative. People love to have the opportunity to talk about themselves, what they do, what they're passionate about. And comments is a beautiful way to give them that platform.
Whoa, that's tweetable. That's a tweetable. That's great. That's great. Budri Mumbra, that's what I'm here for. I'll take all the great tips I can get. Well, I hope we're sharing great tips today, guys. I really hope. Hello, ladies.
Oh,
Hello,
Renee.
ladies.
Actually, I owe Renee a comment back because Renee shared a post this morning talking about shoes. And I think she mentioned that she had a blog that was giving tips on it. And I was going to reply back because I don't think I found the link to the blog and I need shoe tips. So I will be coming back to you, Renee, on that one. And see, this is a reason why I love the community, because some of it is really business related. Some is kind of topics of interest. Some is actually things that I love to learn about. I mean, there's so many people on this platform that I learn from every single day. And if it wasn't for their conversations, my learning would be somewhat thwarted. So I'm really grateful for it. And the best way that I can contribute back is to let them know. How am I learning from you? What am I grateful for? What have I learned from you? What's my point of view on what you're sharing so that others can also benefit from that?
I love that. I love that. And I know yesterday I did a post about using Otter AI, which is a program I use on my phone for voice notes when I'm out and about. See, that's the Canadian thing when you say about. When I was out and about, I use that to do my voice notes and ask people, what are you using? And we have had such a discussion in the comments about all the different other things people are using the same program with. And then Otter AI jumped into the conversation. And I was thinking about it and I thought, this has to be great sort of market research for them to go through and see all the different ways we're all using their program. So it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody when you can have these great discussions, because we all learn and even the company can learn. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Absolutely. Cool. And then I bet you could probably take all the dialogue that happened underneath that. Because I know I was sharing from that I don't use Otter AI and that I actually use my notes. And I remember Mumita joined into that conversation. Yep. And she talked about how she adds the audio component to the notes. So, I mean, we all got something out of that. But the nice thing is you can now take all those comments and turn them into a carousel with like top tips, or you can turn it into a video, or you can repurpose it into so many different ways. And that's another thing that I really like in the comments is I can go back and mine those comments for ideas to build a new conversation off of, or for a way to bring things together into a summary. So they don't kind of die in the comments. I think each comment is like the beginning of a new conversation. And I've
done that with polls, but I need to think outside the box because, oh my gosh.
Do it with everything.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So speaking of great tips, the man is here. Hi, Jillian and Danielle here for two of my top commenters. That's nice. That's nice to get the little gold star. Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
And most importantly, John, I hope you share in the comments what you're cooking right now, because I appreciate it's dinner time, and you are apparently going to be cooking while you were watching. So we're your kind of cooking show right now. Hopefully we're doing okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, we have Liam. What's up, party people? Excited to watch this while I eat lunch. There's a theme of eating here. So we have people, it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner here in Las Vegas. It's, you know, this is a city that never sleeps. So we have like brunch, we have breakfast 10-ish. So, you know, we're doing the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner, and it's all going through. So thank you, Liam, for popping by. That was great. That was great. Really looking forward to this discussion. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you. Hello from Queens, New York. So that's actually where you are right now. You're not in Queens, but you're in New York, correct?
I'm in Brooklyn. So very close, Brooklyn. Craig. I think we need to get together for a coffee.
Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. And then do you sort of kind of, I haven't been back to Canada for a long time. I haven't been back to Canada for many, many years, but you kind of do like, you go back a lot, don't you? You go back and forth?
Pre-pandemic, I went back probably 4 to 6 times a year. So quite frequently. Wow. Now I have not yet been back. Actually, the first time I'll be flying will be actually to London. So I'll be in London in about 4 weeks' time. And then from there, I will probably head back to Toronto. But my parents have been coming here. So my parents are coming back in a week and a half, and they'll stay for probably 2 weeks or so. So at least I have that. But yes, normally I go back and forth quite frequently. All my family's back home.
And when you say London, are you talking about London, Ontario, or London, England?
Good question. London, England. So yes, but that's a good point. I worked and was in school near London, Ontario. So all a part of the country that I'm very familiar with.
Was that McMaster?
I did go to McMaster in Hamilton, and then I would commute to London, Ontario when I was doing kind of an internship in my MBA.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Okay, sorry, Canadian stray talk. Okay. We got Jihan. Jihan, she does awesome stuff in the comments. Gigi. Hi, Jillian and Danielle, 2 amazing ladies. Happy to sound in today. That's awesome. I always love G here because she has such a smile face, and she brings a goldenness and such personality to comments. And, you know, we just have some real fun conversations in the comments too. We have Niraj, Jillian, Danielle. Wonderful to see you both. Commenting is so important. Look forward to this. And it's true. Like that's one of the things I remember reading this. I think John Asperian did a post about this, or maybe it was in his book. I can't remember, but I know I learned it from John that it's like kind of, we go through our journey on LinkedIn when we're newbies, and it's much better to start off by consuming content and then moving to commenting, and then moving to posting, you know, as you go through your LinkedIn journey, because it's like, that's a really great way to build your network, because as you're having these conversations with people, actually, that would be a question I would have for you, Danielle, is when you have a conversation with somebody in the comments, what usually is your next step? Do you send them DMs? Do you invite them to connect? How do you take those conversations and move forward in a relationship building?
It's a great question. It's not consistent. But it is consistent depending on who the person is. So I kind of look at the people I engage with in different pillars. So one is our employees, another is leaders, another is PR, media, journalists, that kind of category. Another is influencers in the B2B space. So people that I will work with in kind of the influential space. Another is people I find interesting, organizations of interest. So depending who the bucket is, I'm going to have a completely different approach. Meaning some people are kind of, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but they're much more approachable. And I know if I just have a quick comment interchange with you, based on your persona on the platform, I could reach out and kind of quickly connect. And so I might do that, but I'm going to reference our conversation, or I'm going to mention something that I found really interesting in your profile and know that I want to continue the dialogue. And so I'll take that route. If it's, let's say, a CHRO, or maybe like another senior executive that's a target audience for me, I probably won't make that first move right yet. I'm going to continue building that relationship, and I'm going to wait until we've had a couple engaging conversations on content. Then I'm going to reach out. Because I find if I reach out too quickly, especially if you're maybe a professor at Harvard in the business school in the future of work, you might not respond right away on one comment because you've got 100,000 followers and you have a very dynamic platform. And who am I in this big sea? So I need to be a bit more present. So I'm going to be thoughtful about kind of that lead time and the build up to kind of build a relationship on a little more solid ground. And then I'm going to reach out. Same with some of the bigger influencers, right? We talked earlier about people with huge followings, and you can't be everywhere, unfortunately. So you need to be a bit more present there as well. So I kind of keep lists, and I have my different categories, and I work those lists pretty methodically in terms of kind of just people I'm really interested in and love engaging with versus those that I'm actually trying to accomplish something with. And then I kind of work through. And so it's a bit of a different mix to everyone. But I will either reach out to connect with a comment that's personalized. Sometimes I'll just do a direct connect if we're like really kind of going back and forth all the time, and you're not going to be like, who is she?
Right.
But I usually will. And then sometimes I'll do in-mails. I'll do that as well. And those are probably the main ways. And then some people can take a long time. I think it's important, depending who it is you're trying to connect with. Don't get disheartened if it's taking you like 3 months to make that connection, because it really depends who this individual is. And there's always that feeling of like, I did it. I got it. Yes. And then all of a sudden you're like their best friend. Once you kind of cross that threshold. So
yeah, that's always funny. And it's true. It's like there's some people where you just feel there's like a barrier, and you can just, you can view their stuff and they don't really respond to you too much. And then all of a sudden you kind of like hit this momentum, and they're all of a sudden like, oh, there you are. And then they notice you. And now you're buddies. And it's just weird how sometimes I think we have to maybe just prove ourselves that we're just there. We're there for the value, and we're not there to just leech off them and take something. So, I think everything takes time, and we have to be patient, and eventually we do get there.
Yep. And make it about them. I mean, I think just really quickly, I see Niraj popping up. So yesterday, Niraj shared a post, I think it was yesterday, or at least I read it yesterday. And it was talking about his journey on being on podcasts. And one of them talked about how he was really persistently trying to get on a specific podcast that was important to him. And he went through the different ways that he approached that. And at the very end, it worked. And what I took away from that, which is something that resonates with me, is he made it about them. Because at first he was like sending a pitch or sending a video or sharing how he could contribute. And then at the very end, he did something that was meaningful to that individual, something that would help them, that resonated with them, and it got their attention. So just like the comments, right? Like comment because you want to contribute to that person's conversation. You want to extend it. You want to enrich it. You want to expand it, but don't comment to check a box.
I agree. That's a good one. So we're coming up to our 30-minute mark. So before we close out, I wonder if you could just kind of give us your final words of wisdom, your sage advice. If you were to just do this one thing, what would be the takeaway you'd send with us?
I would say to be intentional about every comment you make. Remember that everything you do on this platform forms your personal or professional brand, whatever you call it. So make sure that it's leading, and always lead with giving to someone more than what you're asking of their time in order to consume it.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. And we're exactly at the 30-minute mark. So that's
It went
awesome.
so fast.
I know it does. It just goes. It just goes. So thank you very much for being here and being a guest today. Thank you everybody who showed up in the comments, who came and joined us live. It's just awesome. Danielle and I will both go back in and we will address the comments ourselves as well. And I invite you to come back next week for another great show. I have a special guest next week. Every guest is special, but I have a special guest next week. So please tune in for that. And thank you very much. And we'll see you all next time. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.